Due to the effective actions of the Ukrainian Defense Forces, Russia is forced to pay greater attention to the use of camouflage and deception methods to protect its military forces, as well as to conceal their operational intentions, the UK Ministry of Defense says. The Russian army has not used such methods before.
At Russian air bases, маскировка applications include decoy dummy models of aircraft and tires on wings of planes. According to reports, there are also painted silhouettes of airframes at 9 Russian air bases. In the maritime domain, vessels of the Black Sea Fleet have black paint on the bow and stern, likely to make their warships appear smaller and less appealing targets. Silhouettes of vessels have also been painted on the side of quays, probably to confuse Ukrainian unscrewed aerial vehicle operators. UK Ministry of Defense on social network X.
However, the British Ministry of Defense believes that such camouflage will not lead to a significant reduction in losses. It is also unlikely that personnel changes will save the Russian fleet. After the series of successful operations of the Ukrainian Defense Forces in the Black Sea, first the commander of the Black Sea Fleet, Admiral Viktor Sokolov, and then the commander-in-chief of the Russian Navy, Nikolai Yevrenov, were dismissed.
It is quite clear that most likely the removal of the previous commander is simply the consequences of shame after the loss of 3 ships in a row. Of course, something had to be done. I think that the enemy will try to adapt. The personal decision itself is rather a punishment of the predecessor. So far, there is no way to protect them from attacks of the Ukrainian Defense Forces.
Russia needs ships not only for attacks, but also for robbery. In the occupied territories of Ukraine, Moscow stole hundreds of thousands of tons of agricultural products, primarily grain. Recently, a Russian ship was spotted in the port of Mariupol, temporarily occupied by the Russian army, said Petro Andrushenko, advisor to the mayor of Mariupol.
It looks like its carrying capacity is up to 3,500 tons. Apparently, the next batch of stolen grain will be stolen. This is the first vessel recorded in the port of Mariupol since the beginning of 2024. Spring navigation has resumed. Petro Andrushenko, advisor to the mayor of Mariupol, on Telegram.
After a successful hunt for Russian boats and ships, the developers of the Magura maritime drone plan to improve the drones. For example, they plan to make them less noticeable and even train them to dive.
Now specialists are working to install air defense systems on the unmanned platform. I'm not a technician, but I understand that this task is quite difficult. After all, we need means of detecting targets, capturing airborne objects, and means of destruction. And all this must be placed on a fairly small platform. Technically, this is not an easy task, but it is real. Kirill Budanov, head of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, from the publication in Ukrainska Pravda. Ship losses are quite painful for Russia. Each ship takes a long time to build, and in the case of Russia, this can take decades. The loss of a ship is a serious political blow, because unlike a tank or howitzer, it cannot be hidden. It is much more noticeable.
The Ukrainian Defense Forces have already disabled a third of the warships of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. The Russian command is forced to reduce operations involving ships. Now Moscow's main task is to preserve what remains. Reported by Anastasia Tarnavska, Yulia Bil, UATV News.